It is said that the best ideas are inspired by powerful conversations. This holds true from the founding days of the Pacific Pension Institute with its humble beginnings on the west coast of the United States. It began with an invitation. In the early 1990s, PPI founder Larry Hull asked a few friends and colleagues to his family home at Agate Beach in Oregon. Initially, the group was comprised of largely chief investment officers of public pension funds in the United States.
There were going to be 13 of us. It was all just a gathering, no planned agenda. This is the first time that a group like that could get together and communicate, share ideas and thoughts.
It seems that the original participants, there's such a long-standing sense of trust. I feel I can tell you everything that's on my mind. You're not going to be a judge of me.
It was more than simply trusted friends in the room. It was also about building new relationships that would carry forward to more global connections. For the first time, there was a group dedicated to exploring the interests and challenges of the leading CIOs of public plan sponsor organizations who attended. It was a simple concept, but what made it work were the values that guided the organization from the beginning. These early participants identified potential opportunities in Asia and looked to one another for an understanding of how to effectively navigate investment overseas.
What helped it grow, we had people like Michael Boskin, who had just come back to Stanford in the Hoover Institution from being chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. Dr. Lau, who is to this day probably the most preeminent macro Asia Minor economist. Through them, I met Ambassador Freeman. So we now had Larry Lau, Michael Boskin, and Chaz Freeman. That was the glue that attracted everybody. It just grew from that point on.
The initial gatherings at Agate Beach were before the 1997-1998 Asian financial crisis.
In 1997, Dr. Lau was standing up and he had all these charts and maps around him, and then he turned around, he took his pointer and he said, "All right, now we're going to have a meltdown over here. Literally, Asia's going to have an economic meltdown, and it's going to start." And he took his pointer and went through the 7 countries starting. It happened within 6 months, precisely and exactly the way in the time frame by country that this happens. The 7 Asian countries collapsed.
For those who assembled at Agate Beach in February 1998, after the financial crisis had been so accurately predicted at a PPI gathering, the value of those meetings was more than obvious.
It was the camaraderie and the exchange of ideas, of co-investing, investing globally, how maybe they could help each other. The Asian funds could help the U.S. funds and vice versa. Everybody recognized back then it's a global market. There are no barriers anymore.
He was interested in professionalizing the organization that had started in a very small and informal way with just a few pension funds on the West Coast, but who were interested in investing in the wider world, particularly the Pacific Asia region.
I'll accept the accolades, but if we hadn't met Margaret Carpenter, it wouldn't be where it is.
PPI gained momentum. It was growing into a true institute, the Pacific Pension Institute, a people institute.
I met Linda-san. It's Ambassador Linda Tsao in Beverly Hills at American Institute conference. And she kindly invited us to join Pacific Pension Institute.
I've been involved with PPI since 1998, and it was initially with JP Morgan, and then when I moved to a new firm, Trust Company of the West, they became a member, and then I moved to Angelo Gordon, they became a member, so I'm a serial acquirer of corporate members.
It's a culture of intimacy. It's not just a group of investment professionals talking about issues and opportunities. It's a group of friends talking about issues and opportunities.
It was about interacting with people from Asia who were knowledgeable about the question, while at the same time engaging with a group of leaders in the United States, in the pension fund area particularly, who commanded very large asset pools and who needed to be heard from by the Asian community. So it was that educational aspect and the interaction that really drew me to the basic idea of PPI.
For over 2 decades, PPI has convened powerful conversations among global pension and investment thought leaders. Through its world-class programs and member experience, PPI today is carrying forward its strong traditions and values.
At the core of PPI are both large and small private and public investors. They could be pension funds, small endowments, in North America, but also in Asia.
From places like Bhutan and Nepal or Thailand to get to meet people from CalPERS or CalSTRS or BC IMC or Ontario teachers. I think they get to learn a lot about what some more mature, sophisticated organizations are doing, and they can take some of that back home to their organization.
The great thing about PPI is that you can come and see a kaleidoscope of different views and expertise at every meeting, and it's always different.
It's so incredible to see how many countries come into these meetings, are able to sit down and talk. And I have not seen another organization that is of this caliber and this professional.
Our members maintain a keen interest in Asia as well as on issues at the leading edge of opportunity for long-term institutional investors. PPI's programs allow groundbreaking conversation and honest expression that leads to real insight.
First, we have a rule that there's no marketing. Second, people talk all the time about the PPI value of being frank, honest, and open. And third, the idea that we want a very intimate setting that's informal.
The founders created a spirit of hospitality that continues today. PPI members say, "Come for the content, stay for the network." They look forward to attending PPI gatherings because we're not just another industry conference.
I think if I had to sum it up in one word, I would say community. PPI is a community of high-level, intellectually stimulating folks who really want to get the issues out on the table.
Make sure that you meet and introduce yourself to everybody before you leave, and it's an important concept because it allows us then to follow up with them. And there have been transactions that we have done at my fund, my previous fund, which were based on relationships that we had built over the years at the PPI.
I have context now for the decisions I make, particularly as it relates to the Asia-Pacific region. It's one thing to read the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journal, have an intellectual grasp of the issues that you're facing in investing in these regions, but until you actually have an opportunity to debate and discuss those issues, you don't really have the context for decision making.
The ability to attract some of the best people available is very impressive, of course, and rightfully so. Their audience is very impressive.
But then the debate that takes place, and there's always a lot of time reserved for debates after the presentations, it's phenomenal.
My learning experience, if you will, and it's made me a better and more effective trustee by having been exposed to those kinds of discussions and those kinds of experiences.
I look forward to seeing more Asia-based members who can bring more perspectives about investments in Asia.
I'm usually interested in kind of how the whole world comes together, and so we have those kind of speakers. I don't get that in my daily life.
What I find valuable about PPI is just the total pleasure of being able to sit in a small environment and have intimate discussions with people who've become really very great friends.
It's as much about the people you meet and the networking aspect that goes on as it is about the specific agenda.
PPI today is the leading membership organization providing innovative programs and thought leadership for the world's public and private institutional investors, asset owners, and their managers. From its North American roots, PPI has grown into a global organization with trillions of dollars in assets under management. PPI members represent a considerable force in the global economy.
PPI members share a common interest in the power and the potential of long-term global investing for the benefit of their stakeholders.
And we are driven by the fact that we're a plan sponsor organization. You know, that's the core of our membership, and the plan sponsors are some of the most powerful and influential investors in the financial community.
It's a tremendous opportunity to see what other public pension funds are doing around the world.
And PPI is actually that bridge, that catalyst for change that can be there within Asia.
Well, I think PPI creates an incredible forum to get very influential institutional investors together.
There's a lot of focus on education, there's a lot of focus on trying to do the right thing within the investment world.
Information is no longer at a premium in this day and age. It is views behind closed doors that as members of PPI we get access to.
PPI is almost like the Davos or the World Economic Forum of Asia.
I think everybody brings a different perspective. It's a great learning experience.
So I'm very conscious how important that is to share experiences and ideas, and PPI is the one forum that actually sort of marries the fact that we can learn and engage with other members in the investment community.
Our members have the ability as well as the tremendous responsibility to invest for the long term. We empower them through our programs and our network to better understand the opportunities as well as the risks. PPI has grown and it continues to grow in stature and influence around the world. And as a membership organization with programs dedicated to the key issues facing long-term global investors, PPI is the place to be and where true global leaders want to be.
Through our members, PPI's influence impacts the prosperity and security for hundreds of millions of their stakeholders and beneficiaries, both today and for future generations. PPI, a powerful perspective.